Welcome to this special edition of our property show. I'm Jayashree Kurup, I'm editor MBTV. I have with me Sudhir Pai, he's the CEO of Magic Bricks. We are talking about a post-lockdown search analytics and consumer behavior of the Hyderabad market. Our research head, Surbhi, is the one who has put this research together. Welcome, Surbhi, to the show. Let me also introduce the panelists who are joining us today. There's Mr. R.K. Rao, he's the president of CREDAI Hyderabad and MD of Manboom Constructions. Kranti Kiran Reddy, he's the ED of Janapriya Homes. Tapas Patel, MD of Om Street Developers. Rakesh Reddy, Director, Aparna Constructions. Nand Kishore, he's the MD of Ramki Estates and Farms. Shyam Jupal Lee, who's the MD of My Home Constructions. Thank you so much for joining. We start with a special keynote address by Sudhir Pai. Sudhir, over to you.
Deepak, we all good to go?
Yes, Sudhir, we are good to go.
Okay, a very warm welcome once again to all our panelists. I think we have one of the finest set of developers of Hyderabad on the panel today, and we'll look forward to a very interesting panel discussion later. A very warm welcome to all the CREDAI members who are participating today as well. About 2 weeks ago, we did a similar presentation to the CREDAI Karnataka members, which was very well received. And I'm grateful to the CREDAI Hyderabad office bearers for having invited us to speak with all of you. A once in a 100-year event has hit us this year. The amount of turbulence and change it is effecting is unprecedented. Navigating through these uncharted waters requires the ability to gauge which way the winds are blowing and to have a strong grip on the unfolding situation. What I will cover today is how the demand for real estate is playing out in the midst of this pandemic. Now, we know that a lot has been forecast, even more has been speculated, but what we will try and bring to you today is a very data-driven factual analysis of how demand are actually playing out in Hyderabad city. But before I begin, I'd like to share two important pieces of information which will serve as context. One, on why such reports from Magic Bricks are credible and representative of market trends. And two, how do we actually get all of the data that goes into these presentations? Let me just try and share my screen first. Deepak, can you confirm this is showing up?
Yes,
yes, this is showing up, yeah.
All right. Let me answer the first question to begin with. In the last few years, our platform has scaled up considerably. If you look at the last 12 months alone, we have more than 25 lakh people who are looking for houses to buy. This includes only people who are looking at residential houses to buy. It doesn't include people who are looking for commercial, rentals, plots, so on and so forth. We've had as many as 25 lakh registered buyers in the last 12 months alone. And by registered buyers, these are people who have registered and made at least one inquiry through the platform. Now, if you look at these figures, this is about 3 times more than the total number of transactions that happen in the country, primary and resale markets added together. We have about 2.5 crore people a month who visit our platform now. And the footprint, geographical footprint, has now reached more than 300 cities across the country. We also get traffic from more than a dozen, meaningful traffic from more than a dozen countries outside India as well, mostly from the NRI audience. Now, the purpose of showing this data is not to do any chest thumping from our end. The purpose of showing this data is to submit to you that the platform has scaled up considerably. A significant majority of people in India who are looking at homes to buy actually go through Magic Bricks, and which is why we'd submit that the data and the findings, therefore, of the platform would be reasonably representative of the market itself. The second thing is, where do we get our data from for all of these kind of reports? There are primarily 3 sources of data. The smallest source is actually one-to-one interviews that we conduct with a select set of buyers. Now, of course, those numbers are limited, but it gives us a depth understanding of what buyers are thinking. The second bigger source of information is actually surveys that we do. Now, for the purpose of today's presentation, we have done 2 surveys, one during the lockdown period in April, and the second one when lockdown was lifted in mid of July. Between both of these surveys, 5,000 people participated, and it's been a useful source of data for us. The third, but the biggest source of information that we use for putting all these reports together is actually what our users do on the site. Now, we capture all the information that users do on the site. What kind of house are they looking for? What's the budget? what's the BHK configuration, which localities are they searching for, how frequently do they come on the site, how long they've been in the market. We capture dozens of data points for every single user. And we do this across the millions of users who use MagicBricks. So this is really a treasure trove of data. This is the biggest source of data. And we reckon that we would be one of the unique portals which has access to the kind of data with the scale that we operate. So these are three sources of data which actually go into the kind of reports that we put out, including what we're going to share with you today. We're also a 12-year-old company. We've had a passion for data and research all this period. So the data that we have goes back all the way 10, 12 years. We have also invested significantly in this area. So we've invested in an editorial team that is led by the very popular Jayashree, who's moderating the show today. We've also invested in a separate research team, which is led by Surbhi, who's also on the call today, and she'll take questions at the end. We've also invested in a data sciences and analytics unit. Now, these teams use the best of data warehousing and business intelligence software and our own proprietary algorithms to actually put out the kind of reports, including the ones that we're going to share with you today. So with that as a bit of context, let's begin the discussion today. All right, what I'm going to share over the next 15-20 minutes is a set of emerging trends of how the market has played out, at least on the demand side, in the last 4 to 5 months. Trend number one, now this is a question that we've been asked most often in the last 3-4 months, which is how bad are things on the demand side? How bad are things going to get for real estate? There is a perception that things are going to get really nasty for the industry. Let's see what the data actually tells us. Now, the graph that you see on this chart is actually how traffic and inquiries on the portal have trended in the last 6 months. There are many insights out of this graph, and let me walk you through all of them. First and foremost, when lockdown was announced towards mid of March, you notice that there was a steep crash, right? So traffic and inquiries fell as much as 50% on the site. It was one of the fastest falls that we have seen in the last 10 years of running the business. So did things fall during the lockdown? Of course they did, and they fell by a lot. But what happened thereafter? It didn't recover at the same pace. But if you watch what happened between end of April to, let's say, mid of June, the recovery has been equally spectacular, right? As things stand right now, on the demand side, buyers are back in the market. In fact, those levels are a little ahead of pre-COVID levels, if you notice, right? So that's trend number one. It did fall a lot during the lockdown, but it's bounced right back and buyers are back in the market. So when people ask us, hey, what kind of recovery are you likely to see? Is it going to be V-shaped, U-shaped, L-shaped? Say, hey, look at this graph. It looks very much V-shaped to us. So that's something that we're calling out, that at least on the demand side, there seems to have been a good V-shaped kind of recovery. That may not yet have happened on transactions, but buyers are definitely back in the market. Trend number two, if you notice, the orange line here is actually what Hyderabad city has done. Now, if you notice, Hyderabad actually fell a little more than the rest of the country. It's also recovered a little less. In some form, Hyderabad, therefore, is lagging the rest of the country by a bit. And we'll cover some of this on why this is happening later in the course of the presentation. Point number three, if you notice, I think we had some intermittent lockdowns post-April as well. There was lockdown 2, 3, etc. But if you notice in the subsequent lockdowns, the fall was a lot less, and it also recovered much faster, right? So in many ways, the way we are reading it is consumers and the markets are sort of coming to terms with this new normal, if I may call it that. The markets are also getting more resilient. Subsequent lockdowns have not produced the kind of impact that the initial lockdown did, which we think is a good sign. The fourth and last point on this slide, and it's a very important point, is I told you that things had fallen quite a bit by as much as 50% during the initial lockdown, right? But if you look at the other side of it, we have important inferences here. The other 50%, now 50% sounds like a low number, but in absolute terms, it's a lot of buyers out there. The other 50% of people, even in the midst of the pandemic, even in the midst of the lockdown, were still searching homes, right? In many ways, we think these are the serious buyers, the buyers with high intent, who even in the midst of the lockdown continued to search for homes. And we think this is the cohort that is going to lead a recovery back into the markets. Moving on, this gives you some flavor if I break the same graph by property types, right? And all of this is data for Hyderabad. If you notice, houses, villas, and plots, these have actually recovered ahead of pre-COVID at this point of time. But if you look at apartments, they are still about 10% below pre-COVID levels. And if you look at commercial, I think this will take a little more time to recover. It's still 31% below pre-COVID levels. So this gives you a sense of, if you break it by property types, how is demand sort of panning out. Let's move on. We asked consumers in mid of April, and what they told us at that point of time, 1/3 of the buyers who were there in mid of April actually told us that they plan to exit the market. Right? So at that point of time, we felt that the market might shrink by 1/3. But when we asked them in mid of July, a big 93% of them said they plan to stay and they plan to continue in this market, right? Which was a good sign. So when we asked ourselves, hey, what's happening? Did those people, 1/3 of the people who said they were going to exit the market, did they change their mind? Have they returned back to the market? So we looked deeper at data of July to find out who are the buyers who are in the market right now. It turns out that 75% of the buyers who are in the market right now are actually older buyers who have resumed their search. But 25% of the buyers right now are new buyers. They've entered the market in the last few months, and a good chunk of these 25% people are actually bargain seekers. So if there is a way you can address the needs of these bargain seekers, and we'll discuss some of it later in the presentation, there is good business to be had. Look at the graph on the right-hand side. In many ways, internally, we look at this as a surrogate of consumer sentiment, right? This was done pre-COVID. And what it shows you is the average amount of time that people were saying that they would take to buy a house. So pre-COVID, roughly 66% of the people were saying, we plan to buy a house within 6 months. And people who were in a more of a closure stage and who said we plan to buy within 3 months was 28%. Look at what happened in mid-April. These numbers simply crashed, right? People who said we plan to buy within 3 months fell to as low as 7%, right? And as many as 70% of the people were saying we are uncertain when we want to buy. We don't even know whether we'll buy in 1 year, right? So things were looking really gloomy at that point of time. But when we did the check once again in mid of July, things have improved a lot, right? They're not yet at pre-COVID levels, but they're somewhere in between. The key takeaway is this. On an average, if buyers were taking 6 months to make a transaction pre-COVID, they're likely to take 8 or 9 months at this point of time. Which brings us to one important question. What will it take to get buyers to bite and convert this demand into transactions? What are the triggers that will drive this? And we will cover that later in the course of the presentation. So all of this was trend one, which is buyers are back in the market. They're likely to take a little longer to buy, but things are a lot better than what they were in the month of April. Let's move on to trend number two. Trend number two is about budgets. Both in April as well as in July, a large majority, 77% of buyers, are actually saying they want to spend a little less.
Deepak, can you mute us again, please?
So 77% of buyers are saying they plan to spend between 10 to 30% less on the home that they plan to buy. When we reconcile this data with what people were actually doing on the site, right? What were they actually searching for? And that you see on the right-hand side here. The percentages look small, but in a 3 or 4 month window, we think this is a significant trend, which is we find 5% more people looking for homes which are a little bigger right now than what was the trend 3 months ago or 4 months ago, right? So when you look at both of these, how do you reconcile it? You know, on one side, buyers are saying they want to spend 10 or 30% less on the house. But when they're actually searching for homes, they're searching for homes which are a little bigger. So when we looked a little deeper, what's actually happening is what you see on the graph here, right? In the pursuit of going for slightly bigger homes, people are going towards a little more affordable areas, and we're finding this play out in all the 4 corners of the city, right? So if you notice, and by the way, based on the micro market that you look at in Hyderabad, the search volumes have been quite volatile, right? For a 3 or 4 month period, searches have either dipped as much as 20-30% in some micro markets and risen by 30-40% in others. Now, the ones where searches have dipped a bit happen to be the localities where the average pricing is a little higher in favor of localities which are relatively cheaper and where people can buy slightly bigger homes. That's trend number two, which is that buyers want to spend a little less. And the way they are reconciling themselves is by going to localities where homes are a little cheaper and where they can buy slightly bigger homes. Let me move on. Trend number 3. This I think shows Hyderabad in a very positive light. Right? The rest of the country, and this has been playing out for the last 3 or 4 years, there is a fair bit of resentment of buying under construction homes. Right? So if you look at a city like Delhi, only 20% of the people there are open to new launches or to homes which are under construction. The rest of them really want ready to move in inventory. But when we look at Hyderabad, in fact, it's the best city amongst the top 8 cities of the country. As many as 50%, 51% of the users are open to under construction homes. In many ways, we think this is the higher amount of trust that developers in Hyderabad enjoy with buyers, probably because construction delays have been a little lesser in Hyderabad as elsewhere. And I think this is a big plus for the city as well, which the city should leverage. So there is a fair bit of demand for RTM, but specific to Hyderabad, it's not so much. There is fair bit of appetite for under construction homes as well. Moving on, trend number 4, what you see on the left-hand side is, and this is something significant that's playing out, small towns seem to be doing really well. We're not really sure why, because we can't attribute the reasons for sure, but either these are homing instincts of people who are saying, hey, look, I need to have a home back in my hometown, or it could be that the small towns have been relatively less affected by COVID. But for whatever the reasons are, the fact is small towns are actually seeing 50% more search and inquiry activity as compared to the large metros. And this is true in AP as well. We've given one example of Vijayawada here, but it's true across small towns in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. The search activity is significantly more than pre-COVID levels. This is same for NRI markets as well. Again, it could be homing instincts, NRI saying I need to have a home back in India. It could be the exchange rates which have become favorable, but NRI demand at this point of time is as much as 30% higher than what it was pre-COVID. So for those of you who cater to NRI segments, this might be a good time to double down. For those of you who have not looked at the NRI market, please do look at it, because there is a lot more interest from that segment for buying a house back in Hyderabad. Moving on, plot searches are doing really well. There is far more appetite for buying land, and we are seeing significant jumps, especially in small towns. I'll give you an interesting trend. Searches in Ayodhya went up 400% in the last 3 months, right? And even if you look at different small towns across Telangana and Andhra, we are seeing significant jumps in interest for land, especially in the smaller towns. What you see on the right-hand side is how sale is done versus rent. This is one area which we got slightly wrong. When we were asked in April which segment of the market is likely to pick up the fastest, we thought it's going to be rent, because we thought sale will take a lot longer to recover. We've been proven wrong, happily so. It turns out rent is still 14% below pre-COVID levels. And now we're thinking the reason for this is likely that even if people have changed jobs because they're working from home, possibly they don't need to change homes. It could also be that changing homes is actually a high touch, intense activity. And given the kind of pandemic that's going on, people are deferring this for later. So rentals are still 14% below pre-COVID levels, but the sale market has picked up, which again, we think is a very good sign. I'd mentioned earlier that this is an important slide. We keep asking buyers, what will it take for you? You're searching for homes in the market. What will it take for you to transact? There has been a change in what buyers have told us pre-COVID and what they're telling us right now. But if you look at the situation right now, okay, pre-COVID, I mean, in April, job and business stability was the number 2 factor for them. That is no longer a factor. And in many ways, we're thinking this is a good sign because this worry about I'm going to lose my job or I don't know if my income is going to remain stable seems to have ebbed a bit. The 2 factors which are uppermost in people's minds right now, number 1 is pricing. There is a strong perception that prices are going to fall or that I'm going to get a good deal. I think as a developer community, it's not that you need to cut prices in a big way, but if you're able to cater to this need of buyers by offering them promotions or schemes or making them feel they've got a good deal, which I think is what the buyer is seeking, to be had. And the second thing which is playing on buyers' mind is actually cash flow issues, right? How can I get financing support that helps me buy a house right now without having a significant cash flow? So therefore, if you can come up with schemes which are postponing EMIs for later or some form of subvention, I think there will be a fair bit of appetite amongst the buyers to absorb Lastly, what you see on the right-hand side, I think given the pandemic, given the hesitancy of people to actually make site visits, and real estate, we know it's a high-touch kind of business. Without meeting people face-to-face, without people seeing properties, without doing a lot of paperwork, it's hard to do transactions. We would strongly urge you, there is a strong appetite amongst users to adopt technology. For example, we are all on this virtual meeting. I mean, 3 months ago, it would have been unthinkable that we would have done a webinar instead of doing a physical meeting. Users have also adopted technology in a big way. For example, on MagicBricks, live tours are available and buyers are lapping those up. So please adopt technology to the extent you can. Site visits can be done completely digitally, right? And even on the paperwork during transaction, there are a lot of tools available in the market that can actually reduce the amount of paperwork and make it, to the extent possible, reduce the amount of contact. I think these are useful if you have to convert the inquiries and the demand into transactions. Lastly, we are asked, I mean, while those are micro factors on what will it take to get a buyer to actually buy, how's Hyderabad as a city overall faring, right? And we saw in the first slide, Hyderabad had actually dipped a little more and recovered a little less than the rest of the country. So, but when we look at Hyderabad overall, and we've been doing research reports of Hyderabad for the last 10 years, but if you look at the last few years, we see that the city is sitting on extremely solid fundamentals. Right, so there are many things going for the city. It's one of the most affordable metro cities for real estate. Homes are still cheap compared to other metros. The price income ratio is favorable. It's one of the best cities in job creation. Most of the best valued MNCs have set up shop here. Thousands of jobs being created. Commercial real estate has had a good run, and often it is a leading indicator of what happens in residential. The infrastructure development in Hyderabad has been superb as compared to many other cities of the country. So a lot going for Hyderabad, which is why we would submit that given that these fundamentals are strong, we think given enough time, Hyderabad should bounce back and should continue to do better than the other metros. We're running short of time, so maybe we'll keep this for a subsequent conversation, but there are some areas that the city should also look at where it could do a little better. For example, Hyderabad is the only major city in Telangana, right? And what should happen as a result is there should be a fair bit of aspirational buying from the hinterlands of people saying, hey, I aspire to have a city, a home in Hyderabad. I was speaking to a person from real estate in the US just day before yesterday. And he said that a significant chunk of homes in New York are actually owned by foreign nationals, right? Because they simply love the kick of having a home in New York City, right? Hyderabad should have similar appeal, both from the hinterlands as well as a pan-India appeal. There is a fair bit of buying happening even today, but it needs to be a lot more than what it is right now. And then there are some regulatory structural changes which are good for the long term, like enabling people to actually flip their homes far more often, driving transactions more often, getting people to upgrade homes more often, which we think is important, but it will take another webinar to discuss this in more detail. Because we think that for a city of Hyderabad size, it's a 1 crore population, large metro, 6th biggest city in the country, doing 20,000 units a year is actually very small. The market needs to be 2 to 3x bigger than this. And if you have to do that, some of the things on the right-hand side become important to do. So those were some of the trends that I wanted to cover. So very quickly, just to summarize, we are seeing a V-shaped sharp recovery, at least on the demand side. Purchase cycles, however, will extend by 2 or 3 months. Buyers are reducing their budgets, and in the process of doing so, they're searching more towards peripheral localities. Hyderabad prefers under construction more than any other major metro of the country. There is strong recovery in the NRI segment in plots and in small towns. And finally, the importance of digital tools to make sure that we do not lose the demand which is there in the market right now and the ability to convert that into transactions. Before I conclude, let me say this. We've seen a lot of change in the last 3 months than we possibly see in about 7 or 8 quarters of publishing PropIndex. Right? Things are still very volatile. Change is still happening around us because a lot of variables are still out there. From our side, we will keep publishing reports. And for those of you who are interested, our teams will be happy to support you with more granular and micro market data if that interests you. I hope the presentation was useful. Thank you very much for listening in. Jayashree, it's back to you.
Thank you, Sudhir. That was really a great presentation. The second leg of our webinar today is the discussion with the panelists. Let me quickly reintroduce the panelists. There's R.K. Rao, he's President, CREDAI Hyderabad and MD of Manbhoom Constructions. Kranti Kiran Reddy, ED of Janapriya Homes. Tapas Patel, MD of Om Sri Development. Rakesh Reddy, Director, Aparna Constructions, Nandakishore, MD, Ramki Estates and Farms, and Shyam Jupalli, he's the MD of My Home Constructions. And of course, we've got Surbhi Arora, the person who has dug deep into all the data in Magic Bricks, and she's come up with the reports that has been the basis of Sudhir's presentation as well. So I'm going to pick up 2 or 3 trends, some things that Sudhir had talked about. Hyderabad has been the city where the infrastructure development historically has been much better than many other cities in India. Hyderabad has also been the city where maximum take-up of commercial space has happened, and that was expected to drive the residential markets. So Surbhi, very quickly, if you could set the ground by telling us what are the infrastructure projects that have the potential to drive these markets, and the commercial take-ups that happen, which will drive new parts of Hyderabad. You're on mute, Surbhi.
Okay, so first I will answer this question in 2 parts. One is the commercial market. So definitely the commercial market in last 3-4 months has done very well for Hyderabad. Companies like Apple, Microsoft, they have opened their big offices in Hyderabad. The commercial absorption, which used to be around 3-4 million square feet a year, has now come up to 9 million square feet a year, which is a significant jump in last 3-4 years. The reason for this kind of commercial absorption in the market is primarily that these companies have come up. They have come up in Hyderabad because of some regulatory changes where the government is giving good incentive to open the offices there. Another thing is it is a very good alternative market for Bangalore, which is the Silicon Valley in our country and have most of the IT offices. So that is another reason. The market is doing really well in terms of supply. We are looking at around 10-12 million supply of commercial office space every year in Hyderabad, and around 30-40 million square feet is actually planned in next 3 years. And there is a lot of supply plan. If I actually talk about the developer's plan, then there is around 100 million square feet is planned in next 10 years. So the market really supporting that kind of demand. It is a below dollar market. You know, generally IT companies prefer those market where the rents are below $1. And if I talk about Hyderabad, it's around 55-65 rupees a square feet for a grade A office. So that is about more about commercial, and that is driving demand in residential also. Now, if I talk about geographies of Hyderabad, because all of you are from Hyderabad, so most of the demand and every commercial development is primarily concentrated in West for last couple of years. And I would say 50-60% of the demand is coming from the West only. But at the same time, government is aware of this fact, and they are trying to have a bi-directional, or I say multi-directional kind of development in the city. And now they have come up with a great policy and East Unlock policy, which was called earlier. So there is a lot of development happening across the city now. So we are seeing some demand going towards East also, very little demand shift, but yes, there is a demand shift towards East, towards South, where the airport is located. And most of the demand is still in West, and you know, some of the demand is moving toward Northwest just because of affordability. So that is the geographical structure of Hyderabad in terms of demand for residential real estate. Because most of the development is happening in West, so most of the infrastructure project is also happening in West only. Metro connectivity is there, and a lot of flyovers and debris, these kind of things are developing there. So having said that, then most of the infrastructure development is concentrated in West and Northwest area, but there are some development happening towards aerospace, the airport side, and the east side of the Hyderabad. And what we are seeing, that demand for plots, especially plots, which was actually 2-3 years back was primarily concentrated in the West, is now shifting towards these affordable area also. So there is a demand over Warangal Road, where the city is going towards Yadadri, Temple City is getting some traction. So there is also demand shifting. The demand is also shifting for plots primarily in the aerospace area. North, I am not seeing much of the demand shifting there, but yes, there is a demand for Warangal Road, Kurnool Road, and then your towards the airport. So that is what happening in
Thanks, Survi. I'm going to go to our CREDAI panelists now. R.K. Rao, he's President CREDAI Hyderabad. Mr. Rao, have you seen any shift in demand towards those areas where commercial take-up has happened?
Yeah. Hi everyone. Yes, there. I can say you in the last 1 year or so, most of the market driven by the western side. But having said that, the other locations are also picking up now, mostly the eastern side and the Warangal side, and to a certain extent the northern side that was towards the Medchal side we call. So there considerable growth is happening, sales are happening. As Survi was mentioning, or Jayashree was mentioning, the infrastructure is also playing a good major role. The roads, new roads have been developed and they're widened, and then the metro connection is there. So that could be, some of the reasons for the people to span out across the city in all corners. And I would also like to share with you people, during the COVID, I can use this word, the civic authorities have surreptitiously developed 31 new roads. It was a very pleasant surprise when the lockdown was lifted and people went out of their homes and saw all these new shining roads, and the bridges under construction, the flyovers under construction were completed. So these are the major infrastructural initiatives which are also propelling people to go to different directions of the city. So the next big thing is going to be the grid policy, which is they call it the growth in dispersion. I think once it's really grounded, then I think cities not only towards the west, in all directions, it's going to grow fast, especially the northern side and the eastern side, where the infrastructure, reasonably good infrastructure, is already there on ground now. So I think this should drive people over there. And apart from that, towards the Warangal side, there are already the IT establishment, like in Bhuj campus, and once the last mile connectivity, there's still some. There's a huge flyover is being built from Uppal to Warangal Road. It's about 9 kilometers in length. Once that's completed, I think major IT activity is going to happen around Uppal and towards the Warangal Road.
Thank you so much. Kranti, I'm going to come to you. When we talk about infrastructure, Mr. Rao has just spoken about how infrastructure has come, and this has traditionally been the format in Hyderabad. The government has been very proactive with infrastructure. Which, other than IT, is there any other industry driving residential growth in the city?
Yeah, there are many other sectors, but the top that hits me other than IT is pharma. Pharma is a big sector in Hyderabad. If you see all the big bulk drugs that are trying to come back to the country, a majority portion of that business is coming back to Hyderabad. It was a Hyderabad-owned business, which was, I would say, captured by China and so on and so forth in the world. But I think that business is again coming back to Hyderabad. That's going to be a major driver right now, having the pandemic and all the vaccinations that are going on in the world. They want to develop with the companies that are based out of Hyderabad. And so I see that as a major growth driver, apart from it.
Which part of Hyderabad would that be? There is a pharma city coming up, right?
Yeah, there is a pharma city coming, but I think pharma is all around the city already. And new establishments may not come in the West, because West is all driven by IT, and they probably won't survive the less than $1 price. they would probably want to go about all around the town. I'm doing projects which are in the north side of city. They're doing extremely well. Probably the impact of different industry. I'm sure it's not only the IT that would drive the north side of the town. So I think that the growth is going to be all around, especially the pharma sector.
Tapas, you want to talk about 5 localities in Hyderabad that you think are the new kids on the block that are going to see a lot of growth in the next phase? Tapas?
Yeah. Hello, everybody. So Jayashree, I would also like to draw the attention of the panel and even our listeners to the fact that people are these days not particularly looking at the place of work and place of stay being together. I would say that there are buyers who are in the age group of 45 and above. They are basically looking at places which are having a ecosystem of greenery around. So basically I operate and I basically construct in an area where there is a lot of greenery, and I see a lot of people from West also trying to stay in this area just because of the kind of greenery and the balanced ecosystem which they find here. Now coming back to your question, I definitely see Medchal Road as one of the upcoming areas. And apart from that, I also see the Warangal belt, which is also one of the most upcoming areas here. And certainly we are also looking at the development which is going to be taken up in and around the ORR, especially where the feeder roads are very well connected. So one such place is definitely near the pocket of Uppal, which is going to be coming up in a big way. And then we are also looking at Appa Junction, which is already quite there in the last 1 or 2 years we have seen. So I think these are the places which will definitely see a good amount of development as far as I'm concerned.
You also want to talk about why you've chosen these localities?
Well, these are all localities which are, so I'm looking at ORR as being the driver for the development in all these areas. One biggest asset which Hyderabad market has got is the ORR. The kind of infrastructure which ORR supports is amazing. So any kind of development which is going to happen in the next 10 years or 15 years is going to be in and around Outer Ring Road. So I'm primarily looking at that fact.
Okay. Rakesh Reddy, we have noticed on Magic Bricks, and Surabhi has also pointed it out, that there has been a lot of demand for houses, independent houses, as well as for plots. You want to build on that trend and tell us what's happening in the city?
I think one of the points Magic Bricks was making was budget plays a big role in what kind of home a customer selects, whether it's an apartment, house, or a plot. Also depending on whether it's for investment purpose or for their own stay. Right now, and also one of the other points that was, or the trend that was shown in Magic Bricks was the trend going towards sale rather than the rental, which shows that a lot of people are buying up these apartments with the intention of staying there for their eventual work from home for the foreseeable future, right? So plots and houses typically are plots are small budget, but for investment purpose, houses are mostly in the mid to higher end. But again, for rental investment purpose or capital preservation. And in times of pandemic, I keep saying this, the only 2 asset classes that really guarantee security for people is gold or real estate. And that's one of the reasons why all the 3 sectors are doing, segments within the real estate are doing well.
Okay. Nandakishore, when we talk about the Hyderabad market, there's such a strong NRI interest. Is it something that you're consciously nurturing, or is it something that's happened and you're just catering to it?
I think NRI market has a very significant share in Hyderabad's demand, and this is primarily because if you see, particularly in the US, the sizable population of the immigrants from India are from Telangana, or I would say at best Telangana and AP. So that is one of the primary reason why we have a huge chunk of NRI demand. The second point also is because of the I would say the dollar, the exchange rate being quite favorable, we are seeing quite a lot of interest from the NRIs. Third thing is we have come to a point where I see that many of these NRIs want to own a home, out back here in Hyderabad, because many of them are also suspecting, because of whatever job losses they are having there, and quite a few of them have got substantial savings on their account. So they are looking at, buying a home so that in case they have to come back to India for whatever reason, they will have a place, where they can comfortably stay. So that's also one of the reasons why there is a demand being from the NRIs. So all this apart, I think most of the developers in Hyderabad, they do nurture the NRIs. I think we all have our own, people in the system who cater exclusively to the NRIs and to take care of them. And the other very big reason why they are very comfortable with buying homes from, particularly from developers in Hyderabad, is because the delivery excellence that Hyderabad has always been shown. You would rarely find any project being stuck in Hyderabad for years together. So the delivery excellence is one thing which attracts the NRIs, not just, I would say, people from the Telugu-speaking states, but even from NRIs from other states, they prefer to buy in Hyderabad. And we are seeing that, quite a few of them, because many of them know Hyderabad being also one of the largest center for IT. They know that if they have to ever relocate back to India, for the people who are working in the IT segment, they would prefer to come back to Hyderabad for very obvious reasons. So this is one of the reasons why I see a lot of demand happening from NRIs. And I'm sure, they're a good class of people to be nurtured.
And which parts of the city do NRIs prefer? Is it the west?
As I think Rakesh was just touching upon, there are two sets of people. People who want homes as from an end user perspective, and also people who want to look at it from an investment or something which is not from an end use perspective. So for people who are looking at from an end use perspective, they are right now currently preferring the western part of the city, because this is where the entire IT sector is located. But as we see with the government policies coming up, I'm sure we will slowly see traction from NRIs even in the other part of the city. And NRIs who are looking for investment, particularly those who are looking for, they try to, when they come talk of investment, they usually look mostly from plotting and villa perspective. So they are also looking at other parts of Hyderabad, particularly the northwest, where the prices are reasonable, and also the airport area. The airport area is now growing into one big market for residential, given the kind of developments that are happening and which are already pre-existing, and also the pharma city, which is proposed to come up in short, maybe in a few years. So that has become another big driver for investment from this NRI segment.
Sure. Shyam Jupalli, when we talk about the Hyderabad market, there is a distinct trend of 51% of people saying under construction properties is okay. There's a lot of trust in the developer fraternity. You did mention that the delivery schedules have been better. However, the number of people who are looking for houses is still lower than villas, plots, houses, and so on. So how does the developer community assess this, and how do you respond to this demand?
So to put things to perspective, I think we'll have to drive back a little in terms of what's happened in the last 3-4 years, or rather even further down. What's happened in Hyderabad typically is, whenever we had these booms, in terms of the market going up real fast, and then there's correction coming up. The cycles have been very quick. If you notice, that's what happened in 2008. It's been a 1.5 year sort of a run. But this time around, if you see the last 3-4 years, the market has given a fairly good return in terms of whichever kind of activity would you like to take, whether it's the housing or it is the commercial plots. There's been an overall, kind of a good return in terms of investments as well. But that said, I think Hyderabad has typically been a very end user driven market. So there was less speculation, I would say. I mean, there is always speculation in the market, but the fact that the end user was driving these markets, so there was very little scope for, too much of a V shape or, all these sort of cycles that we normally see in a real estate market. So that said, I think the whole point of that itself has it's been very clear that the goodwill and the kind of confidence that the developers have shown in terms of their quality and their products in the market has been very good. Because this is not something that has happened over 2 years or 3 years. This is something we've seen in a very long term. And also what's happening in Hyderabad is given the land availability and the infrastructure, they have a mix. We have a good mix of product availability in terms of price, range, size. We are not excess of anything, whether it's luxury or the affordable. It is a good, bag of everything that you need. So I think the market has been fairly, well balanced in terms of the demand and supply for whatever is the requirement that is there. So I think that's well played out, and I think the developers have maintained quite a good discipline in terms of maintaining our projects with its cash flows and making sure the projects are delivered in time. Because if you see what's happened over the last 3-4 years in various other markets versus what's happened in Hyderabad, it's kind of a unique situation that you see. So I think RERA didn't actually change much for Hyderabad per se because we were already there.
And actually, Hyderabad was the last off as far as RERA was concerned, but it doesn't seem to have impacted the buyer sentiment significantly, right? I'm going to go back to Mr. R.K. Rao. Let's address the elephant in the room. People think that prices will come down, and people are expecting, they're very price sensitive right now. What is your view on what the pricing should be? Is it that will developers entice buyers with some kind of sweetness?
To quote with, I am fully in consonance with what Surabhi has said in terms of the employment creation in the city, the infrastructure, available infrastructure, which is rapidly improving, and the IT space occupancy. So, and this automatically propels the land rates, isn't it? Land is my basic component of my cost.
Yeah.
So lands do appreciate as the business happens and the people buy. So that is one thing, one aspect. The other aspect is there is no way I can reduce the prices because of two very important reasons. Labor has left all the sites after the lockdown is lifted. They went to their respective homes, the construction workers. So they're trickling down, but at a higher cost. The cost of the labor has gone up. And the second reason is the cost of construction. Say the cement has been going up north. So it was about 230, 240 for a bag of cement pre-COVID. Now it's around, it went up to 350. It hovers around, say, 300 today. So even if a builder wants to offer some kind of concession that you cannot afford to, one, and cost, which doesn't go down because I've already invested in the land. The other major component is cost of construction, the labor. So no way, but I can assure you on behalf of all my colleagues, we may not add up. We may not jack up my prices for the time being, at least for the time being. So to give that comfort feeling to all our esteemed buyers in the near future. But having said that, there are issues for us, the taxation issues, the regulatory issues, which we never know, which also necessitate developer to increase the prices. But presently, I can say that at least for a quarter or so, Hyderabad will still offer at the same pre-COVID rates. So that is the sweetener from my side.
Okay, that's a big sweetener actually. If you say that you're not going to raise prices at all, and Hyderabad is a market that has seen price increases historically, right? I'm going to come to Kranti. Kranti, two things that came through in the conversation we had so far, that airport is a huge driver. For plots, for apartments, airport seems to be one area that is like a magnet. And the other one that you expect will be a magnet is the pharma potential of the city. IT, of course, is a given in Hyderabad. Just deconstruct that and see how you are going to see this demand play out and how a developer is going to respond to that demand.
Ma'am, let me put this way. When COVID struck the city or the country, two things really were in a great demand. Number one was technology. A company that thought that, I can't invest in technology, I should not be investing in technology, has decided that they have to invest in technology. And the second part is they need medication. Everybody needed medication. The first sort of medication was remdesivir, which was needed, and that the whole thing was, most of it was manufactured in Hyderabad. So I think both sides of the jobs, IT grew bounds. I don't see any IT layoffs happening as of now. I don't know how the future will pan out, because I do see a friend of mine who tells me that there's a lot of scope of works that he's doing every day because of the increase in demand. Everybody wants to now invest in processes in their own companies. So that's a great driver. And Hyderabad has been an IT market for a long time. Adding to it is pharma.
Yeah.
And so, like you rightly put, when the COVID situation came in, people found that they can have extra cash in their hands if they don't go out, if they work from home, if they don't visit restaurants. So this money, if they can translate it to an EMI, whether they buy a plot, whether they buy a flat, it's a much more utilization of money than, spending it outside. We were a great spending economy. I mean, India was moving towards the West. Every Saturday you saw people, families going out. So we now came back and kind of revisited our forefather conservative culture, where we said, look, let's buy a house, let's buy gold, let's buy something that's going to live for us, for the kids, that I can pass on to the kids. So that culture, again, it got back in a big way. So I think a 2 BHK apartment owner is looking for a 3 BHK because he says that I need more space to work from home. A 3 BHK guy wants a villa. A guy who's in a rental apartment who was being bugged because of, you got to pay rent, you're staying in my house, even though you don't get salary, I don't care. Whereas when you are in an EMI kind of a structure, the government actually laid off the EMIs for those kind of people. So there was a big sense of feel that if a friend of mine had moved into an apartment and was actually paying EMIs, he was more relieved than a guy who's actually being in a rental apartment. This hurts. And so once the pandemic opened out, you saw a spurt of buying homes and to an extent cars, because people don't want to go in public transport. So there is a sector that got boosted, and in that sector I would put real estate as one of the prime beneficiaries. Unfortunately, so nobody wanted the COVID to come, but once COVID came into place, these were the things that I think came out into the limelight.
There is one question that has come, and please, this is to all the people who are logged in. If there are any queries, please keep posting it in our chat box, because we are picking up queries. Some of the queries that I've addressed to our panelists are from these queries that are coming. There is one that says, why is it that somehow in design quality and construction standard, Hyderabad lags similar markets like Pune and Bengaluru? And Tapas, I'll give this question to you, please. Tapas?
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Well, I think as far as this question is concerned, I would actually go back a little, and I would like to say that as one of my colleagues have mentioned, that we have been traditionally end user market. And as far as an end user market is concerned, it's very important to create a balance between the cost of construction and the cost of sale. We were never overpriced. In fact, that is something which I can proudly say, and that is one of the reasons why we feel that we cannot reduce the prices. And I'm sure everyone will be agreeing with that. Now, trying to create things which are which are definitely going to be costing more will require us to actually sell at a certain price. So I'm just trying to come from a point where, now things are opening up as far as experimentation is concerned. All the developers are now trying to look at exhaustive, research in terms of the elevation. We are trying to look at now the facade consultants coming into picture. We never had facade consultants earlier. So things now are definitely improving. As far as the internal design is concerned, we are governed by Vastu. So there is nothing much we can do because almost all the southern cities are governed by that. But then especially Hyderabad has a lot of weightage given to Vastu. So internally there is nothing much we can do, but externally now we are definitely opening up, and I'm looking at 2-3 years from now where we will actually be not only on par, but probably we'll surpass most of the southern cities in terms of the kind of outlook we are going to give to our products.
That's an interesting point, that the prices have been in check in Hyderabad. It's been one of the most cost-effective value for money markets in the country. It has seen exponential growth in cycles. It kept going in cycles. And also, if you put more inputs costs, remember that the output cost will also go up. And that's what Tapas is saying. Rakesh, one interesting thing that came out of the Magic Brick study was consumers are looking for bigger houses, but they're looking for smaller, they're coming up with smaller budgets. Do you see this shift towards the periphery or towards the non-premium localities in each of the, the magnet localities? Are you seeing this happening? Rakesh?
Yeah, so just to add to that point from Magic Bricks, also traditionally, especially it holds true for the Telugu speaking people, that we always preferred a bigger sized apartment or a bigger sized house at a reasonable price. That's also one of the reasons why, the kind of smaller apartments that took hold in Bangalore or Mumbai really didn't catch on that big in Hyderabad. So that's always been there. It's only enhanced now. My friend Kranti was pointing out some time back that if you have the budget, people are preferring to move to the bigger size, right? So that's just playing out more stronger now. It's always been there, but it's playing out more stronger. And to the question of periphery, Hyderabad's story has always been growing on the periphery, and then it develops organically, and then people go beyond that. So it's again, unlike Mumbai or Bangalore, never been the case where the core of the city saw the bulk of the development and the peripheries were left undeveloped, and then it took a while for it to develop. So it's always been outside in for Hyderabad rather than inside out.
Absolutely. With the ORR and the airport so far away, a lot of tracts of land were opened up for real estate development.
Absolutely, yes.
Actually, I have a follow-up question.
Yeah.
Which is, we are seeing that some of the consumer expectations have changed in the last few months, right? Many of them are seeking greater value. Either they are looking for slightly bigger homes, they're looking for maybe little lower prices, or maybe they want to go onto the periphery. But it's fair to say that for a chunk of consumers, some of their expectations have definitely changed, and it's going to remain like this for a while. Now, I understand that transactions in Hyderabad have also been coming up, but they're not fully at pre-COVID levels. They must be about 60, 70, 80% of pre-COVID levels. The question was this: if you have to go back to pre-COVID levels and maybe go even beyond that, what needs to change either in the value proposition that one offers to consumers or in the sales process, so that those consumers who are not yet transacting, you get them to transact? Do you just wait it out and hope that the market comes back entirely, or can you do something about it? Maybe the question is to Shyam.
Yeah, so I would put it this way, that see, the markets have always taken its own course. I mean, no matter what we say, we are only shooting in the dark, right? I mean, it is a larger scenario of events, and especially when it's this particular time in COVID. What's really happened is, if you see pre-COVID, Feb, March, and this sudden, before the sudden surprise of COVID, and I think the market was riding really high. I think we were at the top of the best times that were being seen in the market. And this is in relation to what's happening in the rest of India, where there is still some sort of a struggle in terms of, the general business as such. So if you compare the two markets, I don't think it's very fair kind of a comparison in terms of, let's put it this way, that the market was still taking off in other parts of the country, whereas Hyderabad is at the peak and it started seeing the bottom, and this was some sort of a trigger, if you would put it. And this COVID scenario has just kind of put in a lot of questions in a lot of people's mind. Is the market going to recover soon? Is it not? And I mean, everyone's shooting in the dark that, you know, prices have to come down. There is no scope for it to sustain and stuff like that. But I would honestly think that, you know, there is very little scope for prices to correct further in Hyderabad, specifically because, you know, it has been a very cost-conscious market right from the beginning. And I think that is what has set Hyderabad apart from the rest of the markets, where it hasn't seen too much of a correction when, you know, these cycles kept coming. That said, I think the key will be to see what can trigger an upside. Yeah. Now, that I think will strongly be some sort of a vaccine in terms of, I don't think there is a real effect in terms of the real demand, but I think it is more of a sentimental drive that is kind of holding people back from making that decision, because people tend to believe that there has to be a correction when there is some such scenario. I mean, it is a general belief, but contrary to that, I think we developers do understand what kind of costs we'll have to factor. I'm sure there is more things that will have to be considered, whether it is a labor cost or the input cost, or generally, you know, I would say post RERA demonetization, there isn't been a scope for market to readjust itself because there has been an upswing in the market. But now is the time when we will have to align ourselves in terms of our finances, the cost aligned in terms of, you know, if there is a wait period, you will have to factor a cost that is aligned with that. So all that put in, I think there's only a price rise in terms of input and not much scope, because the market potentiality to draw down the prices, unlike in other markets, the top lines are, you know, and the margins are between 15% or so. So I think to factor in all these costs at that point is going to be challenging. So if anything, I would say there would definitely be some sort of a price correction in terms of time value. So I mean, if my price, which was, let's say in March at say 5,000 rupees, and I haven't taken that hike, this 1 year cost itself is about 7-8%. That's a 300-400 discount. I think that's the way we'll have to look at the market. But that said, I think in the last 2-3 months, as we've been seeing, right after the lockdown has opened up, we've been fairly seeing conversions going back. But as you said, it's not back to the prehistoric levels of pre-COVID. But numbers are a lot more promising. And the key point here is a lot of people are showing optimism. It's just a question of transaction happening. So I think that's a very good takeoff. I think post-October is where we are also looking at 2-3 large project launches, which we were actually deferred from the first quarter launches. But I think we are optimistic for a Dussehra sort of an outlook. So let's see how that takes. I think it's only for the market to test itself.
Yeah, I think Hyderabad was a pretty good wicket before COVID came. And I can understand, therefore, the optimism that we feel that markets are likely to bounce back within sufficient time. I have one quick question for Nandkishore around the same topic, which is the price cuts are of course a double-edged sword. While consumers would expect it, understand it cuts both ways may not be the best to do at all, and for a number of reasons that other developers on the panel quoted. But we notice in other cities, developers are doing different things. For example, they're addressing cash flow needs of consumers by coming up with interesting EMI or subventions. Right? They're finding other ways to create value, therefore triggering more purchases. Do you see some of that happen in Hyderabad? Should one do more of that?
See, in my view, I think without much of those schemes and options, and I think Hyderabad, the market is doing fairly well. And I think what really drives the Hyderabad market, as I said earlier, is the delivery excellence. And this is what is one of the strongest points. Now, on top of that, yes, there is a little bit of financial flexibility that people have been offered in terms of it. I would say more than financial flexibility, it has been the kind of an assurance that, you know, in case something goes wrong, we are there with you, we'll stand by you. I think that is where many of the developers have offered schemes like, you know, if you want to cancel after your booking at any point of time within a certain, you know, prior to handover, there will be a kind of a no questions asked scheme, something which gives them the assurance that, they, even if they run into rough weather, they don't lose out, something of that sort. So that kind of schemes have been given. That is more to give an assurance to the buyers, and also, certain price guarantees kind of thing, which is mostly to assure them and to give confidence that, prices are not going to fall, or, you are not going to lose out. So these kind of simple things have been provided. We certainly in Hyderabad, we have never seen, buy one, get one free kind of an offers, which we have heard of elsewhere in the country. So Hyderabad in that sense has been always very moderated and, fairly well within the, giving the buyers a confidence, driving on confidence rather than trying to attract or seduce the buyers. We have never tried to seduce the buyers. It has been more, give a product which is of quality, stand up to your delivery commitments, and then that's how we should be attracting. And by and large, I think it has been the case in Hyderabad over the years. Even I remember, during the 2009 recession, also we never saw Hyderabad coming out with crazy schemes and crazy offers. That has never been the case, and I think that is what I believe also has made the Hyderabad market more strong and resilient and end user oriented, and that is what has been keeping the market going, I think, and that should be the way, I believe, even in the coming days too. And I think the most important, I would also like to add here, in a way, I have a sense that, the impact of this pandemic on lifestyle has been exaggerated to a large extent, or maybe either I would say exaggerated, or perhaps we could not assess it properly. It's not going to be there may be an economic impact, but the lifestyle impact has been quite exaggerated, as if, people are not going to come out of their homes at all, as if, everything else is going to, all the malls, retail, shopping complex, everything will go into thin air. I don't think that is going to be the case, or as if people will not stop going to offices. I think it has been quite exaggerated in terms of lifestyle impact. And I don't think, I'm pretty much sure 6 months, 1 year down the line, once we get the vaccine and, the entire pandemic comes under control, I'm sure you'll have the traffic jams on Friday nights and Saturday nights, malls running to packed houses. I think everything is going to get back to normal. That is my belief. And I think this I think we'll all, look back and probably be smiling at ourselves that maybe we exaggerated the impact of this COVID.
Who would have thought we'll be looking forward to traffic jams?
Surabhi, I want you to comment on one aspect. The small towns, tier 2, tier 3 towns are seeing a lot of demand. Will that impact the demand in Hyderabad? How is that small town versus the magnet town going to play out?
Okay, so that is true that in percentage terms, we saw that there is a lot of demand coming to tier 2 and tier 3 city. And if we look at the numbers, in some cities, in some tier 2, 3 cities, it is showing like 2 times, 3 times. For example, in Tirupati, it is showing around 5, 6 times the traffic earlier. But at the same time, if you see the quantum, the tier 2, tier 3 cities have much lesser quantum than bigger cities. So if Hyderabad is increasing at 10%, there is a lot of number of people are adding to the searches, right? If there is a increase, 2 times increase in Tirupati or Warangal city, it will be a less number of people. It is doubling up. So it is probably the impact of that percentage that it is showing that tier 2 and tier 3 are doing really, really very well, and they are doing well. But at the same time, you cannot compare with the traffic of the Hyderabad city or any other tier 1 city, because they are growing multi-directionally. The employment is already there in the Udo city. So I don't see that impact will come to Hyderabad. Yes, definitely other cities will grow, but Hyderabad will be unimpacted, I guess.
Okay, now I'm going to take 5 questions out of the ones that have come, which are any one of you on the panel, you can pick up the questions and answer. There is GK who asks, I think supply is more than demand in Hyderabad. How do we balance it? What's the cause to increasing prices on all properties? Does anybody want to take that question? The supply is more than demand. Do you think that is true?
Yes, Mr. Ram. I think you're on mute.
You're talking to me? Yeah, okay. The supply, according to me, is not more than demand. If you look at markets like Bangalore or Chennai, or even Delhi for that example, I think we are in a very, very decently placed position. Which you do not find houses after the construction and the painting and everything is over. It's almost not the case. And if there is such a case coming to any builder, then I think he has to introspect on the sizes of the apartments that he's building and the budgets that he's doing at that particular position. I'm not saying it is not possible to have. Maybe the plans and everything are different. We have to introspect in a different way. But from where we stand, where we see what things are at this stage, definitely we are selling out apartments even before reaching ground first to second floor. Again, I'm a budget and affordable housing developer. Our budgets are from 25 lakhs to 50 lakhs. So I'm probably not talking about developers who are doing 1 crore rupees of apartment and 2 crore rupees of apartments. I just want to address one more issue about price and quality, which was asked before, if you don't mind. Yeah. Hyderabad's pedigree of developer has been that we build on our own, we pour our own concrete, we do our own stuff. And there may be a decent relationship in terms of or comparison that is happening. If you look at a Bangalore developer or a Pune developer, he generally outsources it to a large contractor, a JMC or an L&T or somebody like that. But the pedigree that you see here, most of the panelists that you see here, is that we build on our own. We have our own concrete plants. We have our own. Sham has his own cement industry, to say the least. So we are a little more vertically integrated industry, and we do, for that reason, adopt excellent technology. Most of the apartments that are delivered now are with My1 or concrete wall and concrete slab technology. So I do not think that there is a difference in terms of quality with the other developers. But definitely, because we are lower priced, there is a comparison and people start looking at us maybe a little differently, which I think has to be addressed. If you look at all the townships that are recently being developed, look at the Aparna townships that are being developed, look at the My Home townships that are being developed, they're all top class. I mean, not even comparable to some of the townships that probably are delivered in some of the cities like Pune and Bangalore. And I am a developer who do projects in both these cities of Bangalore and Hyderabad. So I wanted to just bring that perspective back in the horizon. Thank you.
Yeah. There is one of your builder friends who's asked, is this the right time to launch 200 to 300 unit apartment projects, and or shall we wait for 4 to 6 months to see how the market responds? Also, somebody else has asked, what is the effect of new project launches on Hyderabad market? Who would like to pick this up?
So if permitted, I would like to respond to this. See, let me say something here about Hyderabad. I think Hyderabad is at the threshold of a phenomenal growth. I don't think we have yet seen growth in Hyderabad. See, the way the government is working and the way the new projects are coming up, the way the business is moving into Hyderabad, I think we haven't yet seen the full potential of Hyderabad as yet. There is going to be phenomenal growth, and mark my words, 3-4 years from now, you will just see the way Hyderabad employment grows in Hyderabad. So that's number one. Second thing, and the most important thing is, see, if you look at urbanization, see, in entire of Telangana, I think Hyderabad is the urban capital. And what's also going to urbanization today looks at, there are two aspects to it. One is on the lifestyle, urban lifestyle, and other is the economic opportunity. I think Hyderabad offers both. So so this is what is going to draw in a lot of migration into Hyderabad. The population of Hyderabad is going to grow, I would say exorbitantly in the few years to come. So I would suggest anyone who wants to start projects, I don't think there should be any hesitation. We should go ahead. We should launch projects. There is demand in the market. There are people who are looking to buy houses. The only thing, as Kranti was saying, do what people want. See that you calibrate your projects to the demand. That demand assessment, which I think is perhaps the most important thing. We need to assess that, the demand is, we need to understand the sizes, the expectations, and as rightly pointed out in the Magic Bricks, the assessment or survey, people are looking to go to the fringes of the city to have while they want to have the bigger houses, they also want to limit their budget. Now you can also achieve the same thing by having more functionally efficient designs, you give more per square feet. That's a moot point I'm trying to make. So building the right homes, what the people want, and more efficient designs. I think this is where I think the focus has to be. More mind has to be applied at the planning and design stage than in the subsequent stages. I think this is where the focus has to be. And if we are getting the right product into the market, there is never a wrong time for Hyderabad. That's my strong view.
One last question.
Jayashree, I would like to add a little to what Kishore has mentioned.
Sure.
I agree with Kishore that we are yet to see the right kind of development, and I would just like to give you a little bit of background about the history. The rural areas of Telangana have never been this strong, what we have seen in the last 5 years. In fact, in your Magic Bricks survey also, you have recommended that it has to become an aspirational destination, Hyderabad. And we are looking at this happening because with the kind of schemes which are being floated by the government, especially they are targeting the farming sector. So when the rural areas become strong, and I'm going to tell you that, we are going to be the rice bowl of the country in the years to come. In fact, the kind of infrastructure which the government is doing in the rural areas, when the rural areas develop, obviously the investment will start pouring into the Hyderabad, and Hyderabad being one of the urban capital of Telangana. So yes, I agree with Kishore. We are actually, going to have a wonderful time ahead. And if there is something which one wants to launch, if a new project is supposed to be launched, I think they can go ahead and launch it. I'm looking at a very, very positive outcome in the years to come. Thank you.
And one last question. There's one of your friends, one of the developers who's asked, will the new supply uptake be linked to the completion of the commercial projects when the pipeline gets operational? Do you think that the operationalizing of the commercial pipeline is going to significantly impact the residential sector? Yeah. Go ahead, Mr. Rao.
Yeah. I think it's not, I don't think you're going to have a greater impact. It's only, as most of our colleagues were mentioning, it's a temporary phenomenon. I quote you, yesterday I was listening to Mr. Nandan Nilekhani of Infosys. He was saying, this is not going to work. Working from home is not going to work on a long run. It's only a short-term phenomenon. At the most, it will stabilize, maybe between 10 to 15% people will be working from home. But also having said that, courtesy the pandemic, as one of our panelists said, the processes, the people are investing more and more money in the processes. So there's a lot of demand for the IT. So what you mean to say was, Ms. Nilekhani, there are going to be more jobs, to catch up what's lost or where you need to plug these issues in case a situation like this. So I don't really see it's directly linked to the completion of the IT buildings or the occupancy. We hope and believe, we believe that they are going to come back to the normalcy very shortly. That's one thing, and I would also like to add a little bit more to some of the questions. Like one, yes, I partially agree about the aesthetic quality of my buildings in the city. So it used to be. Now you see, there's so many youngsters, my young colleagues. They're into all things. They would like to build a nice building, nice looking buildings inside and outside. So permit me to say, because the two ladies on the panel, before a few years back, my buildings were like a lady with a large heart, a good heart, but not such a great looks. Now I'm trying to match both. But having said that, this is an extremely Vastu-driven town. One of the more aligned with very particular with Vastu. So Vastu also constrains us. It has got some limitations. So that's the reason you don't see those buildings where you play with a lot of form and other architectural features. But in spite of Vastu, we are still building good buildings, and I think one day, in a very near future, we are going to beat the Vastu and building a much better buildings, world-class buildings. So this is what I would like to say, and also what Tapas said to add. Telangana was a very arid, dry region. We used to have one crop at best, sometimes not even that. Now, most of the state, I can say about 70% of the state is being provided with assured irrigation, that is the assured water. People are assured of minimum 2 crops in a year. So this year, a small state of Telangana has supplied 50% of the paddy of the entire country. 50% of the paddy to the government of India, to your food corporation of India. That is within a span of 4 years or 5 years of the formation of the state. So this rural economy is really going to drive real estate market. You are not only going to have the agriculture income, you're going to have other incomes from the agriculture. Like you see, the chief minister was saying, we need 200 times more rice mills to mill this rice which is produced. So that kind of local industrialization, then the fisheries, so on and so forth. So the connected businesses to the agriculture. So these are all food processing businesses. So it is going to explode, as Rankishore said. We are just knocking on the threshold now. So that is the kind of potential, and given the infrastructure of the city, which is the best I can say in terms of the road network, and also not only the roads, the water supply. We have one of the today. I request some of the panelists, if you see, government of Telangana provides tapped water to the 98% of the households in the state, not the city. And the next state is, there's nowhere, there's no other state which is not even in 30-40% bracket. Then there's the power supply, uninterrupted power supply for the last 6 years. Not a moment you lose the power in the entire state, not only the state. So these are the big drivers, and also the kind of law and order. So these factors do play a major role, especially for those international investors who are looking to set up their establishments in the country. So I think this pandemic is only a temporary phase, hopefully, and all of us will see a lot of traffic on the road shortly.
I have to confess that Hyderabad has been a personal favorite of mine, a favorite real estate market of mine. I have rooted for Hyderabad for a long time. The fundamentals are strong. Even when you had a political problem, the fundamentals were really strong. And I think that going forward, like you said, there's timely construction. People are responding to it by asking for under construction properties. There's good infrastructure. There's demand spreading across the cities, and the government itself is looking for drivers in different parts of the city, so that it's not all concentrated in one part of the city, but spread across. Sudhir, you want to make some concluding remarks?
I think it's been a wonderful conversation, very wide-ranging. Frankly, I think we should do this far more often. It's useful to compare notes on and validate what you see in the form of consumer demand. How closely is that connected with what is happening on the ground? I think we're seeing a good correlation at this point of time. I think, Jayashree, we should also probably plan, if it's okay with the various panelists and with CREDAI, another webinar at some point of time on how to make Hyderabad 60,000 units a year, or maybe even more, right? Because over the last 2 or 3 years, it's been the best performing metro of the country. And with all the infrastructure and the structural changes that are going into the city, it's poised for a lot of growth. So maybe that's something we can pick up for the future. But specific to current times, I think there's still a lot of change which one is going to see before this pandemic sort of settles down. From our end, I think we are doing a lot at this point of time to make sure that we are able to support our users as well as our customers as best as we can. For example, we've leveraged our product and tech. We've come up with features which are useful in this time. We've launched video tours for our users to enable them to see properties from the comfort of their homes. We have created solutions for NRIs, for plots, for small towns, because those are the pockets which are doing very well. And we'll continue to support as best as we can through new features in product and technology, as well as various other interventions through which we can support. We'll also continue to support the market with more of these kind of reports, more updates, because I think in times like these, when change is around us and fast changes around us, it's important.
More magic, more magic from the Magic Bricks.
Thank you. We'll take that as a compliment. Like I was saying, I think it's important to know which way the wind is blowing, right? It's important to be ahead of the curve, and which will come through a good appreciation of data and research. So from our end, we'll continue to support the market. Thank you all so much. I think it was a lovely conversation. Despite it being a virtual meeting, it felt so real and one-to-one. Have a lovely weekend.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jayashree
Thank you, everybody.
and Shrubi for very commendable work and stats. Thank you very much. Thank you all the listeners and my fellow panelists. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.